and welcome to Dubai Trains. In this video, we're going to design a yard for my new layout. I want to explain how the design evolved, and I'm going to be talking about the various wishes I have for my layout and the subsequent requirements that has for the yard. We're going to talk about various staging solutions and how the yard fits into the overall layout, and lastly, how to operate it. So let's have a look. So here is my new layout. Well, let's say the schematic of my new layout, the Chicago Division Street Yard Terminal and Railroad Association. In this video, we're going to talk about this section of the layout. So it's the Division Street Yard, that's going to be the main focus. And then we're going to talk a bit about the staging as well, the C&NW staging. Check out part 1 and 3 for the brewery section and the near north section. So I want to share with you the design journey that I took so you can learn from it and perhaps implement it in your own future layout. So the initial design is to have a main line that goes through the entire layout, and where various trains on the main line can drop and pick up cars at the yard. Now, what type of yard this would be, a transfer yard, industry yard, or branch line yard, that was still a bit in the open. It will be a large meat packing facility, some more switching in the middle, staging, of course, you're going to need that for the trains to jump out of and to dive into, and then a brewery complex at the end. This quickly evolved to the meatpacking to be stuck onto the yard, so it'll be partially an industry yard. This saves a little bit of space, and then the staging would be parallel to the main line. So if you were to work out this rough sketch and come to a design, then this is more or less what I think what it would come down to. So you have the main line here is the thick line, and then if we start with the yard at the left, we would have 1, 2, 3 tracks for the classification. One track right here will be arrival departure, and there's a little runaround / storage track for the caboose, some engine facility here, and then this would be your yard lead that also leads into the main line. On the north, you can have some more industry, so a beer distributor, maybe a passenger station, and then on the right side, stuck to it will be the meatpacking. I understand this is quite a novel design and not something very common. The big benefit of this is that your meat out that comes out of the factory right here will go straight to the icing and then can be classified straight away and then be on its way off the journey. And then the stock pens will be to the north, and there will be a bridge crossing for the cows to gracefully walk into the factory. Now, the yard staging would have to be connected somewhere on this main line. I thought it would be nice to connect it right here, because then that means that trains coming in from the east on the staging, they would have to do an entire loop around the layout just to be able to come in from here, and then once they're dropped off or picked up the cars, because this track right here is just after this turnout, they would have to do an entire other loop just to dive back into staging. And it's the same for the other direction. And this is all fine and dandy, and I parked this layout for actually a few years, and I learned a lot, and after making dozens of designs for clients and for myself, I changed a few things. So here is what we just discussed, and this is what's left of this whole plan. And basically the entire meatpacking is gone. There's just not enough space to model that well. Yes, I can squeeze it in, but I don't want to. There could still be some more industry tracks right here, but I just didn't draw them in yet. And then staging would be alongside here on the left side. But once I drew all this out, this is then more or less what it comes down to. Yes, it fits, but I just don't like it. This is too many tracks. It's not prototypical. What's all this doing here behind here? And then it all has to squish in here in some other type of yard lead just to get to this point. No, I just didn't want this at all. And at that time I had my gun revelation, as I explained in video number 76, A and B. And it's mostly Robert Todd's layout. And that just gave me the insight that, hang on a minute, maybe what I want is maybe not like a main line or a branch line with various trains coming in, picking up and dropping off cars, but an urban switching layout. So then I went back to my original list of requirements, and I just checked like what is still left of my list if I have this urban switching layout and not some kind of main line. And here you see the result. So the scale and the main radius and turnouts, that's the same. The industries on the layout, that's more or less the same. The build dimensions of my space, that's not going to change. And on the operations side, everything I wanted, like switching to local freight emphasis, small time classifications, small yard with 3-4 tracks, everything I could have. The only thing I couldn't have is specific tracks that go for east or westbound traffic. Well, it's not really relevant. And then doing an out and back train for the branch line. But in a terminal layout, you have that as well, but it's not in this setting. And on the left side, the general side, yeah, the scenery changed. I went from my hills and my greenery to a more urban setting, and I was moving to that anyways, to be honest. And that's when the CD&TRRA was born and what we're talking about today. So in case you missed that, check out the video number 86. Don't worry, it's going to be a link after this video where you can get on board. So just to conclude, really have a good think of what you want in terms of operations, in terms of scenery, and if that matches with each other, and which one has priority. So here we are with the old design, and what did this mean? It turned into this. So let's quickly go through it. First off the bat, the yard has mirrored. And this turnout right here has moved before the yard lead, rendering this turnout right here obsolete. So that one's gone. That's what you see here on the right. Added some industries on the north, and the staging has become a stop-end staging. So basically, there's going to be a hostler or an engine that goes from the yard, from the facility, just to the staging. As this is an interchange yard, so there will just be cars waiting there to be picked up by a hostler anyways. And then also we'll take them to the yard. That's not the final design, it developed a bit more into this. So basically we have an engine facility right here, you'll see it in a bit, and added some stockyards here. A bit of a nod to the massive meatpacking industry that Chicago does have. And don't forget, I did want a meatpacking, so I got a little bit of that right now. So let's jump straight into the design. Here is the layout, probably recognize it, and we're going to talk about this section right here. So let's just zoom in and get our bearings. Here it is. The black line is well, it's called a main line. It's not really main line as we learned, but it's called a main line. And then this blue line will be the arrival and departure track. So different jobs coming back, either the hostler jobs or the switching jobs, will pick up or leave their cars on this blue track. And then all these orange tracks are the actual yard tracks. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks right here. One would be for the C&NW interchange, one would be for the Pennsylvania interchange, and then 2 more tracks for the industry switching slash little backup. Then we got a runaround here, but it's actually going to serve as a caboose storage track, and the orange track here on the right will be the yard lead. So that runs into a dead end. Now on the north side, we have 2 tracks right here. This is the engine terminal, the old steam section, and as diesel came in, we expanded it later with this orange track right here. And then on the north, we see my 2 stockyard tracks. Now, if we just go back to the plan, we talked about this yard. We need to talk a little bit more about staging. So last time we talked here on the right in part 1 about this Pennsylvania Railroad interchange. It's in blue. And we're going to talk now about the C&NW staging here in orange. So let's have a look. Here you see on the right the brewery that we talked about. And if you remember, here in blue is the Penn C interchange. And our interchange is going to be right here, the C&NW. Surprisingly enough, these 2 interchanges are located next to each other, but if you look on the chart, they're actually on the 2 opposite sides of my little railroad. Purple-pink dotted line right here actually does not exist. So basically this track right here goes straight into the interchange as it does in the prototype, and on the other side this black piece of track is a yard lead, and here we have the interchange to the Penn C. So some people might have a problem with this, that it's all so close and nearby. Well, I frankly don't really have any problem with that. If you really don't want to see this interchange right here, you could have a wall, put it behind that small divider, so you just hide them out of sight. For me, I'm just going to scenic it. Yeah, it will look nice to have some more cars parked on the layout. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive. We talked about the Pennsylvania Railroad. This car float, it holds 15 cars, and these 2 tracks down below are going to hold 10 plus 10 for the C&NW. And what does this 10 plus 10 mean? Well, now we got to start thinking about how are we going to operate the layout. Let me give you an example. I'm going to use the car card system. Don't worry if you're not familiar with the car card system. You'll catch up, I think, quickly enough. So for the car card system, each car has a card, and you put it either in the set box because it needs to be spotted on the track. It's either going to hold, then you do nothing, or you're going to pick up that car. So on day 1, here you see a schematic diagram with the 2 tracks. Day 1, we have a whole string of cars, 10 it's going to be because 10 plus 10. They're in the pick box. So they are going to be picked on that day, as you see here. And these 10 cars, the B ones, are the whole box, so nothing's going to happen to that. And then later in the evening, there's going to be a whole new set of cars, C. They have to be spot. So they're going to be spot in this empty track right here, and the cars B are just still going to hold right there. So then in day 2, what happens, so the cars from the hold box go to the pick box, and the cars from the set box, C, go to the hold box. So the C is not going anywhere in day 2, but the B's are departing, and later in day 2 will be filled by set D, etc, etc. So that's why I'm stating that the C&NW holds 10 plus 10. Yes, I could switch out all 20 cars in one operation cycle, but that's just a bit too much for my layout, and we're coming to balancing the layout in another video. You'll see 10 plus 10 works just fine. So now just looking at the layout, when I was balancing it, there's about, I think, 34 spots here on the yard, and it needed just a little bit more just for some overflow. So what I came up with is I don't really want to add another track, because you have 5 tracks here, and then these 2 tracks basically just going to be empty half of the time, especially this arrival departure. I don't think that's very fitting for a terminal style urban condensed setting. So I'm actually going to use this arrival departure as a backup classification track that will hold about 6 cars. And because you do still want to have the ability to run around, I'm going to have this crossover from these 2 tracks right here, so you can still do a run around with 5 cars right there. This should give more than sufficient flexibility to handle the traffic flows that this whole layout and these interchanges generate. Right now we discussed part 2 right here, the yard and the interchange. Do have a look at the other parts. There will be a link that you see on the screen right now if you want to see that. And if you're interested to learn more about yards and how they work, check out the other video on the screen as well. Thank you for watching. That's it for today. Bye bye.